how does copyright change, say if you have a publishing deal? So somebody signs to a publisher or gives away the publishing part of the, or a part of that. How does that affect the copyright for them? Is it a simple math? I give them a quarter or a half piece of the pie and that's it? Or is there something more to that?
Well, there you go. There's another great question. We should probably do another session just on publishing deals, but I'll try to to make it simple. Okay, the most important thing about a copyright in a song or a master is not what percentage you get. It's who controls the administration of the master or the song, okay? So just a brief bit of history, and I'll try to not go into too much detail in this call, but since you ask, if someone's going to do a publishing deal, there's a number of different publishing deals. There is the traditional old publishing deal, which came back when the music business first started back in 1956. I am a songwriter, and I wanted to have my song written. My song recorded by a famous person. Back then, you have to remember, there weren't a lot of bands writing original music, and there weren't a lot of bands, period. There was not even any rock and roll.
Yeah, Cheryl,
like Frank.
It killed me. It killed me when I found out Elvis didn't write. I don't know if maybe he wrote one or two, but he didn't write. I always thought, that Elvis wrote. And I found out I was a kid, and I was like, what? He didn't write any of that stuff?
Yeah,
I got over
Lieber
it.
And Stoller. Lieber and Stoller wrote a lot of their stuff, and his stuff. But but there was the old famous Brill building in New York, which was a building in New York where all these songwriters that became famous used to hang out together, and then they would pitch them. Not the artists, but they would pitch them to publishers.
Right. Was this the Tin Pan Alley, or was this something else?
No, it was in New York.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was called the Brill Building.
Okay. Right.
And that's where Lieber and Stoller came from, and a bunch of Carol Bayer Sager, I can't remember her name. A lot of pretty famous writers came out of there.
Okay.
But they weren't bands recording their own songs. They were pitching them to other people. So the traditional publishing deal was 50-50. The songwriter, that's where all of this split thing comes from, that the songwriter gets 50% and the publisher gets 50%.
Yeah.
Well, then you would transfer the copyright to the publisher forever, and then you were dependent upon the publisher in good faith to pay you your royalties. So you hear the stories of the old artists or the old composers who never got paid anything. That's because they gave away their song to a publisher, but they didn't have a reversion clause in it. Nowadays, composers put a clause in that say, if you don't get a placement of my song within 3 years, the song comes back to me. So that's something we can talk about in another session. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then what happened, just fast forward, when rock and roll came along, and suddenly you had, especially in the late 60s, you had all these groups who were, coming out on the scene, whether it was, the Eagles and all these bands who were recording their own music, right? Mm-hmm. Writing and recording their own music. So suddenly the 50-50 deal wasn't fair anymore because the publisher wasn't going out and getting the cut. They weren't going out finding somebody to record the song. The artist was recording their own song, but yet they might want a publishing company that was going to go out and help them exploit it more, or more, quite frankly, more often than not, it became about being a bank. The artists were looking, or the groups were looking for additional sources of revenue. So they would go out and let's say they had a big hit song, they could go to Universal, or there was no Universal then, it was MCA, or they could go to, Sony, or they could go to Warner Brothers. And if they'd had a multi-million selling record, they could go get an advance of, $1 million or $500,000 on their publishing. And they wouldn't give away 50-50, they would give away 25%. And they would keep their 50% songwriters, but the other 50% that was traditionally given all to the publisher, the group and the songwriters and the publisher would split that at 50-50, which meant that the composer got 50% as a composer and an additional 25% as a co-publisher with the publishing company they signed with. Does that make
Got
sense?
it. Yes, absolutely. Now, for those people out there who haven't taken the art of the song pitch, we go deep into this stuff. You want it? Can you briefly explain, Cheryl, about the writer's half and the publisher half? It's just when a song is, when you write a song, it's automatically endowed, right, with a writer share and a publishing share.
Right. Well, and that goes back, and the reason why it's not in the statute, it's not a legal thing, it's what we call custom and practice of the industry, and that's where it came from. I just told you where it came from. It came from the old days when people went out and took songwriters' songs and went and pitched them, right? And got them. They got Frank Sinatra to record the song, or Sammy Davis Jr., or those guys were famous. They were getting all the airplay. Yeah. And that's who they were. Or Elvis Presley. You got a cut on Elvis Presley. That was a big deal. Right.
Yeah. And still to this day, when we write a song, immediately when you write it, you've got the writer share and the publisher share.
Right, but that
50-50.
that came from really ASCAP and BMI trying to protect songwriters, right? So what happened was ASCAP BMI, as a matter of policy, it wasn't a law, just as a matter of the way they chose to do business, because both of them, particularly, ASCAP was a broadcast group that started BMI. But ASCAP was the American Society of Authors and Composers. So they were very composer-oriented. So their business model was, we're never going to give a publisher 100% of that income. We're going to split it at the source and give half of it to the writer and half of it to the publisher, right? Mm-hmm. So at least songwriters weren't getting screwed, even if they weren't getting mechanical royalties for the sale of the records, because they weren't getting paid for it. Mm-hmm. ASCAP or BMI were at least getting them their performance income. So that's where that came from. It's not a custom and practice. It's just the way the industry grew up.
Got it. Okay.
But then this, as I said, this second way of doing it, the 75-25. And what's important to know about that, because those scales are still out there, what's most important about that is, you may think it's great that you're going to get 75% of the income, but you still better make sure you're entering into a contract with somebody that's reputable, because if you give the administration rights to that co-publisher, it doesn't matter if you make $500,000 or $1,000. If they keep it all and don't pay you your 75%, you're screwed.
Right.
And so it's the administration rights. So then and I won't go into more detail than that now, but then there's a third kind of deal where people keep, I think, because so many artists now co-write songs. Okay. And if they co-write songs, you automatically, you can decide what percentage each of you own. If it's 50-50, great. But now there are songs that have 5, 6, 7 writers on them, especially when it's some big famous artist. Everybody wants a piece of something, Lady Gaga wrote. So if you walked in the room and sneezed, you say, "Oh, I wrote part of that song." And so people fight over that stuff, which is ridiculous, but they do when it's a big artist. So then the question becomes, what's your percentage? But you don't have to give that away. You can keep your own. Let's say you wrote 15% of a Lady Gaga song. Let's say, so you should be so lucky. You can collect and administer your own 15%.
Okay. Just privately on your own.
And your publisher's share would be 7.5%, and your writer's share would be 7.5%.
Okay.
Of the whole song.
Right. Now, say I'm a songwriter and I co-write with somebody, or just say it's a band, or I co-write a song. What's the best way to sort of protect myself, or at least, not even protection, make sure everything's harmonious with everybody? Are these obviously contracts? So these contracts people can download off the internet, or these things they should talk to a lawyer about? Or
I should talk to the lawyer. There's a simple little one. If you're gonna just keep your publishing and you've agreed to what the split is, if it's 50-50, there's a little simple agreement. I could probably put one up or give you guys one to share, because they're not complicated. There's a very basic agreement called a co-administration agreement or joint administration agreement. Mm-hmm. And basically all it says is, we're going to jointly own this song together. And you can designate the percentage if it's, we wrote it 50-50 or we wrote it 75-25, right? And it basically says we each are going to own our own share, whatever that is. And then we're each going to collect our own money, separate and own licenses. And if for some reason some licensee or somebody pays me, let's say I get a sync license and I collect 100 for the whole song and I owe you half of it, I'll pay you your half. In good faith, we'll divvy up. If somebody got my share, we'll pay each other. That's it. That's all it says, really. So but that's a good way to make sure there's no misunderstandings between the composers themselves.
Right.
Oh, and I left out one thing that's really, really important. If you do end up in a situation where you act as your own publisher and you're getting income, particularly on the streaming side or on the mechanical side, you can't just affiliate with ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC as a writer. You also have to have a publishing company and affiliate a second time as a publishing company. Because of what we discussed, they will pay if the total song earns $100, they're going to give $50 to you in a statement as the writer, but they're not going to pay out the other $50 to a publisher unless somebody's there listed as the publisher of the song. So you have to set up your own publishing company as well.
Okay, so this isn't the case of a songwriter writing a song and getting it copyrighted. You're not suggesting that every songwriter has to set up a publishing company.
No, they do if they're going to collect money. If the song's being exploited in any sort of meaningful way that might bring in some decent income, yes, they have to have. They won't get paid if it's on the radio or getting streamed quite a bit, that sort of thing. They're never going to get both shares of the income. If they keep it all, they have to register twice, once as a publisher and once as a writer. Yes,
I wasn't. Oh, yeah, but on the ASCAP form. Right. If you put writer, you put the writer, and then if you put your name as the publisher.
Well, I don't know how ASCAP is doing it now, but I'm working on one right now.
Yeah.
You have to affiliate as a publisher for the publisher share, and then you have to. This is the way it works. You cannot be an ASCAP writer and be with a BMI publisher.
Okay,
you have to. If you are an ASCAP writer, you have to be associated with an ASCAP publisher.
Got it. Okay.
Whether it's you as the ASCAP publisher or an independent third-party publisher, like Universal or whoever.
Got it.
And all the majors have a publishing company with all three. They have an ASCAP, BMI company. They all have different names.
Yeah.
But their ASCAP writers go through the ASCAP company. The BMI writers go through their BMI publishing company.
Right.
But if you're your own, you got to have a company.
Yeah. So at the very least, I guess it would just be a call to the PRO to be absolutely sure everything's, in line. If you've got a song out there,
you can just do it. You can do it all online. You can sign up online. I'm filling it out right now for a client of mine.
Yeah, I just was getting at a songwriter setting up a publishing company. They have to register the company in California.
No, it can be a DBA. It doesn't have to be a LLC or corporation. You can do it as an individual. You do have to come up with a name for a company, just to John Jones, John Jones, and my company's called John Jones Publishing. But you have to remember, it's a technicality, but you got to give them three names because they're not going to let you register something that's the same as somebody else's. So they make you submit three different possible names. And hope one of those three will clear.
Okay, sorry. Can you repeat that last part? Sorry, Cheryl, it just broke up there for a second.
I said you have to submit three names, potential names for publishing companies when you fill out the publisher application.
Okay.
Because they're going to check their records and make sure it's not confusing to something that's already registered. Okay,
understood. Okay, and then awesome. So just before we jump into the Q&A, I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask their own questions. This is pretty amazing, you guys. You can be able to consult with a top entertainment lawyer for free here. So, but we'll try to answer the questions the best. Cheryl will try to answer.
Hey, the payoff is one. Some of you got to go out there and be successful.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Then you need help.
Nice. So the last question I had for you, just quickly, are there any sort of copyright laws or movements or things that you see on the horizon that you think are going to positively or negatively impact songwriting in the next maybe 1 to 5 years?
Well, I think the most exciting thing that's happened, and it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, is the Music Modernization Act, which has been passed. It's Congress passed something. People can't believe it. They don't pass anything, but they passed
Yeah.
this thing.
Finally,
And, I mean, the Songwriters of North America and the attorney Dina Lapolte, they worked their asses off for 5 years, flying back and forth to Washington, D.C., and they lobbied every congressman and woman incessantly on this thing. And they had to get all these different interest groups together and try to get them to agree, and they got everybody on board. Now the only person that's challenging it, of course, is Spotify.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Puke on them. I'm sorry. I don't care. I mean, I just don't. I'm just tired of companies that have a business model that's based on stealing other people's property.
Right.
Without paying for it, and it's just so. But anyway, but having said that, it's a great thing. It has a lot of kinks to be worked out. There's a collective that's going to be set up to collect some of the additional streaming money. Mm-hmm. And then, so there's still mechanics to be worked out, but the rates are going to go up. And one of the most important things is that the judge, for years, last 25 years, they have fought millions and millions and millions of dollars wasted every year fighting in the royalty rate court, where they have to go in, ASCAP and BMI have had to go in and fight to get any increases, right?
Wow.
And this year, rate court actually gave them a 35% increase. And because one of the things that was the problem is the judges had said they could not put in evidence of market rates, of what the going rate in the marketplace was. Wow. And that kept the lid on the royalties. And now I think the statute has something that says they have to consider the market value of the music when they set the rates. Okay. So that's going to cause the revenues over time to start to go up. So it's a fabulous thing. And I urge everybody to, start being, even if you're not famous, and start being, at least keep up with what's going on in the industry. Because there are people out there, lawyers and publishers who are working their asses off to try to get rights protected for you guys, And you don't have to spend a bunch of money, but it sure can help sometime if they're trying to get something done to, send an email to your congressperson or whatever, and start be supportive and be active.
Excellent. That's amazing, Cheryl. This is great. Okay, well, so let's jump into Q&A. I was glancing over the chat every once in a while while I was trying to listen to Cheryl, and I saw, there were a few questions that came in. Instead of scrolling all the way back through, there's a lot of comments too. So we'll just start, on the sort of at the top of the page. And if you have a question that you posed earlier on in the chat, if you can just ask it again, that would be great. We'll start, maybe Cheryl, can you see all the questions there? Like, can you?
I actually don't see any of them.
Oh, so just hit the chat. You see a little blue bar on the right side of your screen.
Yeah, there? I have enabled chat. Oh, all messages are private. There we go. All messages are public. Would that be it? Ooh.
Do you see a whole stream of stuff there?
I don't.
Oh, let's see.
I see you say enable chat. Let me see. Oh, there we go.
You got it? You can see it?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
This is cool beans.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments in here. There's a lot of people who have been firing questions and stuff. So so we've got lots of them piling up here. So do you want to just let's just go down and start? I mean, there's so many questions coming in. Why don't we just start with maybe just at the bottom here, Suleiman. I hope I have that pronounced right. Suleiman, do you see his? About 4, 6 down.
No, I was up at the top.
Yeah, up the top. If you go down about 7 or 8 now, I guess.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see William, Sid, Don, Gary. I'm not seeing that. Oh, there it is, Suleiman.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we start there and move our way up here the best we can?
Should I consider my relationship with a publisher who doesn't like doing paperwork and having things on record? I'd say, I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but what I'm gathering from it is somebody who if you haven't signed anything with them, that's probably good, because that means they don't own anything. If you haven't signed anything to give them the copyright, then, that's a good thing at this point.
I think reconsideration is a wise move. Okay, next one, Jay, regarding copyright registrations, right? The performance artist, the PA, I guess, is the performance. You go ahead, Cheryl. You can read.
Yeah, well, my understanding is if you're going to do the master, you use SR, but you can also do the song on the SR at the same time if it's 100% owned by the same person. Does that make sense? So, like, let's say you co-wrote a song with your buddy, 50-50, but then you recorded your song and you own the master, right? You would have to protect the song, you would have to do a PA, and to protect the master, you'd have to do an SR, because they're not 100% owned the same. But if you own 100% the song and the master, then you can do both on one SR form. And there should be a place on the form to claim rights in the song as well.
Okay, great. All right, next question from Clay.
How to choose it? You know what? The truth is, probably flip a coin.
Yeah.
They're both great organizations. They both have fantastic people who work for them. They work really hard. Over the years, I've known phenomenal people at both companies. I think they deserve a lot because they work really hard. There's some people at very high levels who have big careers in film or TV will say, well, they make more money on TV with ASCAP or more money. So, when you get to that level, then worry about whether you should switch. But when you're starting out, you can't go wrong with either one.
Perfect. Great. Okay. And Robert.
At SOCAN Pro, we put together a percentage of the rights that are the publisher and do not have it. Well, yeah, SOCAN Pro may handle it differently. PRO. I don't, but I do know that BMI and ASCAP require something different. So that's great. I have not dealt with SOCAN, to be honest.
Right. Thanks for showing up, Robert.
Thank you. It's a good question. It's a good question. So you've given me something I need to study up on.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what SOCAN is in the States, that's the Canadian PRO. Essentially, there's one up there. So.
Okay. Yeah. SOCAN is a little more advanced than we are. So so that would make sense that SOCAN would offer that as an option, because they're a very fine organization. The head of their organization comes down, and I'm going to put a plug in for you guys for a couple of different things to know. I was past president of an organization called the California Copyright Group Conference, and we have monthly dinner meetings. Right now, it meets usually on a Tuesday, and it costs about $50 to come to the dinner. But you know what? You will meet so many great people, and you'll learn so much about the music business. I started going to those meetings when I first moved to LA in the 80s, and I did not know a soul. And you know what? I think it's some of the greatest people I've met in the whole industry. We have different topics every month, but almost all of it's related to music publishing. And so you can meet publishers there. You can meet people. Sometimes we have events that have to do with songs and film and TV. So you can learn so much through that organization, So it's called the ccc.org, or is their URL. And then another great organization is called the AIMP, which is the Association of Independent Music Publishers. And that's you can join for like $50 a year. It's not expensive to be a member of either one of the groups. And they do AIMP. The only difference is AIMP does their events at lunchtime at Lowry's on La Cienega Boulevard in Los Angeles.
Right. No, that's great.
And by the way, for those of you who don't live in Los Angeles, AIMP posts their recordings and videos online. So you can have a virtual membership and still get access to their to see recordings of their meetings.
Yeah, and I concur with that because I went to one of the copyright dinners there, and I saw you there, and I met like a lot of different interesting people. There were some supervisors there and publishers and stuff like that. So that was very cool.
And by the way, AMP check New York and Nashville as well. So if you're in those areas.
Sorry, Cheryl, just broke up there for 1 sec. Do you mind repeating that?
Oh, I just said AIMP has chapters in New York as well as Nashville.
Got it. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. Next one, Gary.
What kind of focus should I have in terms of marketing instrumental tracks for usage in different contexts, submitting tracks to music library? Oh, that's a great question, Gary, because I was just about to make a comment. I don't know where you live, but if you are in New York, LA, or Nashville area, there is another organization that's geared towards music libraries, and it's called the PMA, the Production Music Association. Fabulous organization. It is mostly libraries, but it also has small, large. And in fact, I just got an email from them today of some roundtables they're doing in New York, where they're going to have, and it's not expensive to attend, it's where you go for the evening and it's different tables that are going to have different moderators and people at a high level in the industry. And you can go to 3 different tables for a half hour during the evening. And they're doing that in New York. In fact, I was hoping they would do it in LA. I just saw the announcement. And if any of you would like me to send the info on that, I can forward the link for you guys. But, there's that kind of thing. So the Production Music Association is a great way to learn more about the library music. And again, if you're a musician and starting out, the fee to join that group is not expensive at all. And they do have some events during the year in Los Angeles, New York, and Nashville.
That's excellent. Cheryl, would you mind sending me the link, and I'll put it in the replay of this webinar is going to be up, on Sing Songwriter. I'll put that in the show notes for everybody.
That's great.
Be great. Okay, Dawn, does a Modernization Act include Canada?
I think Canada's probably ahead of us anyway. But no, it wouldn't technically, because the Modernization Act was passed in the United States by Congress, and they only have authority over what happens in the U.S.
Okay, perfect. And next question from Sid. Can I use the same publishing company name across all labels, etc.?
Not sure what you mean, but you would have to. If you mean that you would use for all record labels and stuff, the publishing company that publishes the song is going to stay the same no matter what record label the song is on. If I understand your question correctly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. William, thank you for this knowledge. I really need to know more as a writer, producer, and engineer. I am also from Canada, and I don't know if what you were saying is applicable to my nationality.
Much of it is. Obviously, William, a lot of what I was saying pertains to the U.S., but now that I know there's some Canadians on this call, I may be able to get you some more specific information. But I would reach out and look on the SOCAN site, and they're going to have some basic information about copyright and that sort of thing. In Canada, I can't swear to this, but most of the rest of the world, by the way, you don't have to register your copyrights at all. So you may not even need to register up in Canada, to be protected at all.
What do you mean by that, Cheryl?
Well, because remember I said copyright protection is automatic?
Yes.
But in the United States, they sort of hedged that by taking away your rights unless you do register. And in other countries, there is no mechanism for registration at all. You never even have to register. You just, if you've already got the registration. So I'm not 100% certain about Canada, but I know most other countries in Europe, you don't register at all.
That's what I've always understood, actually. And if Robert's still on the call here from SOCAN, maybe you can clarify that if he knows.
Does he work with SOCAN?
Yeah. Robert said he's from SOCAN, I guess. So,
cool.
And that may be the same Robert I know. So.
Oh, great! Fantastic.
Okay, Jay. What is the best practice to have the song copyrighted first, then submitted to the PRO, or send it to the PRO, then copyright it?
I don't think it matters. It's more a question of whether the song is being used because it's exploited, because there's no use submitting it to the PRO if the song's not being used. Do you know what I mean? They don't even want you to register it unless the song has been recorded and released, or there's some reason for them to collect it on it. If the song's sitting on your hard drive and you're not exploiting the song in any way publicly, then there's no real reason to register with the PRO. So I don't think the order matters. It's just as a matter of good business practice. If you write a lot of songs, at least once every 6 months or a year, I put them all on a thumb drive or upload them to the Copyright Office and spend $30 and protect them.
Perfect. Great. Next one from Boom. I'm currently in Chris's sync class. When I get my first sync and get a contract, do you take on newbie clients?
Yes, I'd be happy to work out something for like just a contract review for the first time around, and then, but something fair. I don't know what it would be yet, but we'll figure out something that you can afford.
Excellent. That's great. And we actually have students who have gotten syncs before even getting out of the class. So we had Adrian, we got another guy who may have something in Canada. Yeah, national broadcaster. Just found out about that a week and a half ago or whatever. So these things can happen quickly. So that's great.
That's great.
Awesome. Okay, Clyde, is it true that Spotify has had the right to play my songs, some of which are on my own site and some of which are on iTunes, even though I have not put them on Spotify?
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so either, yeah. That's,
if they're not supposed to be on Spotify, then they shouldn't be playing them.
Yeah, very odd. So from James, I am British, living in South Korea. Which PRO should I use?
Oh my God, James, come on. Is this a tongue twister? Is this like, are you trying to stump me? Stump the music.
Yeah.
You win. I'm stumped. I know. You're living. Actually, it's not a question of that. It's a question of where your songs are being used. It's not whether you're British or South Korean. We didn't talk about international because, that's getting pretty advanced. But let's put it this way. If I'm an American, or if I'm a British, or I'm British, and I have a song that's on a TV show in South Korea, you're not going to get paid unless you have a PRO in South Korea. So there's a couple ways you can go about that, which would be to attempt to, since you live in South Korea, in that example I just gave, you should be able to affiliate with the PRO in South Korea. I don't know the name of the South Korean PRO. But in England, I think it's more tied to where you're based and where you're living as far as signing up with the PRO. Or if you have a company in that territory. In other words, I can't, as an American songwriter, go join the British PRO and collect all my own royalties unless I have a British publishing company. Just like I have a ASCAP or BMI publishing company. I'd have to have a publishing company in that territory. And not many people are going to go to that trouble. There are a couple of exceptions. Terry Nelson Carpenter, who's the president of AIMP, actually has a publishing company, and she's members of PROs almost all over the world. And she now has her own companies in South Africa, all kinds of territories. But she's got a company and collects for a lot of pretty well-known people. But for someone like you're not going to do that. You would need to go through a local publisher in that territory who could collect those royalties for you. Okay,
great. How you doing there, Cheryl? I don't want to,
I'm great for a few more. What time is it? Oh, 7:15. Sure. Yeah, I'm probably, but the bigger problem is my computer's going to run out of juice in about 5 minutes.
All right.
So let's see. There was one question that I saw early up there. It was something that caught my attention. Oh my God, we got a lot of questions.
Yeah, a lot of questions.
That's great. And we can follow up with some more questions. If I can maybe answer some of them offline, maybe I can follow up and fill in some answers, Let's see. Heads up. Oh, here's one, a good comment from John. Sure. Heads up. Copyright Gov beginning March 15th. You may register up to 10 unpublished songs using the new application for a group. That's fantastic, John. Thanks for letting me know that. I avoid filling out copyright forms as much as possible because I did so many of them in my early days. And now my big advice is to all my clients, learn to do it yourself.
Right.
No, and it's because you can't afford to pay me to do it. It's not cost efficient. And it's something you need to know how to do. You need to pay me to do the things that matter. Not that I'm saying copyright registration doesn't matter, but that's something you can learn to do yourself.
Yeah.
Reserve me for when you have a licensing issue or a contract or a problem, right?
Right.
But I'm emphasizing the registration because when you come to me, if you've had a problem, I want to be able to help you. Let's see. There was... No, I'm not. I'm as a composer with SOCAN for 43 years. Okay, I'm not sure what Robert was saying there.
Sorry, Robert. I misunderstood you. I know Robert acts SOCAN, actually. So.
Okay. Oh, Sid, that's an interesting question. Hi, Sid. I have a co-publishing deal with Irving Almo. Great freaking company. It's the first company I ever did a deal with many years ago. For an old-timer who was a fabulous writer named Mason Williams, who was the head comedy writer for the 1960s TV series called The Smothers Brothers. But he also had the biggest instrumental hit in the United States ever at the time, was called Classical Gas. And it's still one of the most frequently performed songs in the entire BMI catalog. So he was signed to Irving Almo when he was in his 20s. Can I use that company name to do deals with writers for publishing? Well, do you want those songs to be I assume that Irving Almo is doing the administration. So the question would be, do you want Irving Almo to do the administration for the songs for other writers? Or do you want to run them through your own company without paying me money to Irving Almo? So that would be the determining factor for me. And you may choose to have Irving Almo do it. I'm not saying don't. But if you use the same company and you have a contract where Irving Almo gets administration of everything you write or put through that company, they have to give it.
Right. Okay.
And then there was somebody I saw that had a question which kind of caught my eye, which I thought it was a good one, about her songs being used on cable. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a good example of what I'm talking about, and I can't find it now. She said something about, because we kind of went down the list, it was somebody who mentioned that she had some songs that were being used on TV shows or something. So, and the answer to that is, that goes to the example of what I was saying of, yes, songs do get used, and and I'll give you guys a really quick example. I have a client who's like family to me because I've done 2 lawsuits for their family in the Latin Mexican music market. And this was about 4 or 5 years ago, they had a song, and I can say who it was because I sued them. But year did an internet promo it was on about 35 or 40 websites for a TV series that they were premiering. And it was, it ended up being the biggest telenovela that Telemundo had ever done. And it ran for 4 or 5 years. And they used 1.5 minutes of my client's song and master to promote the series a year in advance of the series coming on. And we didn't discover it until 3 weeks before the TV series launched. Wow. They absolutely refused to pay us and get a license fee. Now, this is Telemundo. And do you know what their defense was? Oh, we didn't do it. It was the production company in Mexico but it was like their branch office in Mexico. And they refused to cop to it, and we had to sue them.
Wow.
So,
and you won?
We got a settlement out of them. But we had to fight like hell. I mean, it goes to, and we had a copyright registration, and we still had to fight. And they spent probably $150,000, $200,000 in legal fees fighting me.
Why?
Because they're assholes. That's what they do.
And the settlement was probably a fraction of that.
Yes. And if we can get away with it, they will. That's the point. People steal, and then they hope they don't get caught,
Yeah.
So
and sometimes that reminds me of the divorce courts, it's like people splitting up and they just go completely broke through animosity. They just throw
Absolutely. And you know what? It's funny you say that because this is off topic, but I'll close with this. I've had clients where I've told them that we're getting a divorce. You might as well settle now. You can either settle now and work out something, or you can go spend all your money and pay it to the lawyers. And in 2 years, you will settle and you will end up exactly in the same place. But they want to go fight because for whatever reason, they hate each other. Right. And then 2 years later, when they're broke, then they settle. So my opinion is try to avoid court at all possible, if at all possible, by making sure you cover your ass with the beginning. Don't wait until you get screwed,
Yeah.
Learn your business, guys. Learn it. You owe it to yourself. If you're going to invest your career, and this is your career, part of your career is learning how to take care of your business. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you don't do deals and you don't have great relationships in the business, but don't think somebody's going to do it for you and that you can trust everybody to do everything right.
That's great, Cheryl. Cheryl, thank you so much. And I guess it goes without saying, we got so many questions we couldn't get to, just due to time constraints. But I guess it goes without saying, people can reach out to you if they go to the link there with the download. You're actually going to go to one of Cheryl's pages.
That's at my site, the Hodgson Legal site.
Yeah, so they can reach you obviously through that website, right? If
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and just if they mention that they were on the Sync Songwriter webinar with you.
Yeah, I'll work out something where I could do some kind of like really reduced, 20, 30-minute consultation if you have a specific problem. And then, if you need to hire me, we'd apply that cost to whatever work I would do for you after that.
Excellent. Well, they'd be in incredible hands here, as has been made obvious on this webinar. Cheryl, thanks again for doing this.
I had fun. This was great.
Such a valuable resource for our community.
I'm a real supporter of songwriters and creative talent. It's been my whole passion and my whole career. And it's important that you get yourself educated, And if I can help you guys in that way, in any way possible, I'm here to do so.
That's excellent.
Okay.
All right, you guys. So,
bye, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you later, Cheryl. And don't forget, everybody, the download link is on the right side there. If you want to quickly hit it, you can download it. Download the guide that Cheryl was so kind to give you. And
I'll forward the information about the PMA meeting that's coming up.
Perfect. Too. Awesome. That sounds
okay,
great.
Guys. Be well. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Oh, of course. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.